kind of packed in here tight, so we appreciate that. Appreciate your patience of waiting for us today. Welcome to DC Art Center, and I'll turn it over to the inimitable Susan.
Well, thank you to B and all his support and wonderful staff here at DC Art Center for allowing us to have this beautiful show. And I want to thank Amy Gall and Gilliam for pushing the Lily Press Show presence in DC Art Center. I am a master printer and artist from Lily Press, and I'm in Rockville, Maryland. And this is an exhibition about several of the artists I've worked with over a 10-year period. It's not all of them, but it's a selection of a lot of the area artists that are here and artists that are from nationally and internationally. And so I'm very excited to share this, the work, and I want to introduce Erwin Tam up there, who's like one of the best guys ever. Talk loud. Yeah. Could I sit here on this area here?
I don't work here. So. The guy said 43 people, and then that was it.
Can we sit on the steps?
Yeah.
Steps. Okay. Go ahead. And so today we're just going to do a very brief introduction of a few of the artists that I've worked with in 2017. And the opportunity to work with the wonderful, talented, there's so many great people making prints in the city. And I've asked Julia Langley, who's the Director of Arts and Humanities at Georgetown Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center, to be the moderator. So we're sticking to a strict schedule. We're not taking questions because there's going to be jazz, the Charlie Barnett Trio at 3:15, 3:30 outside. And so I'm going to turn it over to Julia.
Thank you, Susan. Can everyone hear me? I want to make sure. Okay, good. We're gonna, if we're not speaking loud enough, let me know, because we want everyone to hear. And I don't believe there's any miking here. So Susan's miking us up. I had to adore her. And so I'm so pleased to be here, because to follow the work that she does and the way that she is teaching people about printmaking, the art of printmaking, how it fits into other art making, and then bringing it to the fore in our community is just amazing. So I'm thrilled to be here. And my role today is not to talk, but to ask questions of our panelists so that you can hear from their point of view. So I'm actually going to ask each panelist the same question. And we're going to start with Mr. Sam Gilliam, and then we'll go to Ms. Eve Stockton, Ms. Carol Barsha, and Mr. Victor Ekpuk. So, Sam, the question for you, which I'm going to read because I'm afraid I'll not say it right otherwise, is, regarding the print you have on view, can you tell us about the ideas behind the work and how the experience of making this print relates to your work in general?
The print that I have on the wall is about everything that I do. It's only about color. It's the simplest way to make a grand idea. I guess that of all the days in the week, Sunday is the day of rest. It's the day of happiness. That's why. That's because on Saturday night you can take out. It's a good thing that what's happening at DCAC, the way that it actually came into existence, was that it was actually a space we started for $20,000 when WPA used to only show artists from the outside. And it was a great thing because Howard Marion lived across the street. We had a gallery here that was so small it was called 20th and a Fuller. And it was where the Washington Color Schools used to show when they weren't fighting. And across the street we have good arguments until we walk all the way to Connecticut to Ben Bob's and Before Darks and things like that. till the Hells Angels came in, go across the street. It's one of the things that probably, as one of the older persons in the room, that art is always here. I think that between New York and Washington, I've always loved this place. I've always loved it mostly for rugby. And I love it for the old route. I love it for the rides that were here. And I love it the fact that it's actually crowded now here, which means that there's a lot of feeling for what is fundamental. And that's what Susan represents to us, is that she cries a lot.
You're supposed to talk about your work.
When she's ready to make her print, she has to walk the dog. And a lot of the trip going through the dining room, and now I understand that Jeff has built her a path straight through the garage. Someone has built her new tables. We gave him $5,000, he quit. He got married. But it's exciting. And it goes on. Thank you.
So, Eve, Stockton, I'd like to ask you the same question, which, do you remember what the question was?
The why and wherefore.
Yeah, can you tell us about the ideas behind your print that's on view here?
Well, first of all, I want to thank DCAC Susan for including me in the show, Julia for your work, and my esteemed colleagues, and an art appreciating audience. I think it's terrific on this murky day. I come with props because I find them useful. And I'll start with this odd piece of birch bark that I found when I got the paper this morning in the rain. And I'm going, well, I don't know any birch trees around here, but I had to pick it up and admire the texture, the color, the structure, the outside, inside. You know, it's a phenomenon. Well, this gives you an insight into how I think about the world, and it started from the very beginning. I grew up in rural Ohio in a wonderful family. Our home was on the corner of a big farm, and I had the privilege, my sisters and I had the privilege of playing in farm fields, orchards, streams, ponds, deep woods, and even caves. So this is all to say that my love of nature, and I make nature-based large-scale prints, and mine is the large woodcut burst in the exhibit. So all this love of nature comes very naturally. And I think in my family, nature, art, and family life was so commingled that it's all one and the same to me. And probably the love of nature, the awe and curiosity that entails has stayed with me and generates a lot of my artwork. My schooling was focused on architecture and art. Architecture focused, art as a minor, and I became a registered architect and actually worked in DC, New Haven, and New York City, but then I suddenly had a young family and we decided to move to Fairfield County, Connecticut, where miraculously there is a huge tradition of artists of all ilk and some fabulous art centers that were instrumental in helping me with my little emerging artist status. And around 20 years ago, a friend suggested we take a woodcut class at the local print center, and I said, great, let's do it. So I grabbed some old gouges that I got in a thrift shop, and off I went. And almost immediately when I got exposed to woodcut printmaking, it was like a big light bulb went off over my head. I understood the right reading, wrong reading, the layering, and fell absolutely in love with the history of woodcuts, which is the most ancient of print forms dating from ancient China. But the graphic nature of woodcuts, the fact that you're carving into a natural material and then printing on the paper, which is a processed natural material, I just loved every aspect of it. So I took off, and within 1 month, I had done a 6-foot print. And woodcuts are normally kind of small. So this, I was intrigued by what would happen if, and challenged myself with the scale. And right around then, I made the executive decision for myself of carving 3-foot by 3-foot wood blocks and working within the confines of that size. And what did that allow me to do? Well, it allowed me to work in a modular way. And this is a evolutionary landscape from a show at Brown University a few years back. This 6-foot print involved 4 carved wood blocks. So there's an A side and a B side. Well, if you've gone to the trouble of working a good match line and you've got AB going on, why not just keep going, AB, AB? So you see the possibilities of working the landscape that way. And then on the inside, it shows one of my early big series, the Bloom series. So if you've got a square, obviously having some sort of concentric design makes sense, as does this Bloom ball. So I did about well over 100 different color variations of this 3-foot by 3-foot prints. So this is also to say that I like to work in variations, and I'd say well over 90% of my prints are unique variations. But this one was an addition of 10. So I work both ways. So inspiration isn't just nature in general. I like to try to distill the natural world observed and the primordial world imagined. I like to think back to what happened at that moment when chemistry became biology. What was first life? What did it look like? We'll never know. So this excites my imagination. And I'd say the burst print out in the exhibit is sort of part of that. You know, is that microscopic? Is it cosmic? The ambiguity is left to the observer, but I like implying narratives in a very fundamental way like that. Here's another image, also in silver, on a royal blue background, called Cluster 11. And this print also harkens back to primordial origins. Now I have new work, also working hard with Susan in the studio, new work also generating along these lines. And I have a big show coming up at Longview Gallery April 19th, which you're all invited to. But having been exposed and worked in most of the art mediums, I've done stone carving and metal welding and stained glass, you name it. Once I found printmaking and woodcut printing in particular, I just found so much joy and challenge. And I think printmaking is a very, very high art form. I would never, ever consider it less than any of the others. And I have to say, having chosen the scale, and I like the physicality of the carving, even the toting of the heavy blocks. And when Susan and I get going, we need our 4 hands to lower the 10 or 12 pound block each time to go onto the paper to go through the press. Now Susan's doing most of the cardio work because she's also got the huge roller putting the ink evenly on the block. So this is all to say, I would never challenge this woman to arm wrestling. And with that, I'll sum up and pass it on to Carol.
So Carol, can you tell us about your work? In general.
So I had carefully written notes and I left them at home. All of my work is also very strange. I just met this woman, and my work's completely inspired by nature as well. And really what intrigues me is drawing. When I went to art school, I wasn't allowed to do printmaking because it didn't fit in my schedule. So I had to teach myself how to do printmaking. I did do one summer course in etching, but as a sort of impetuous painter that I am, I taught myself monoprinting, and I did monoprinting for many, many years, and that was, I loved it. And I realized the reason I love printmaking, and the reason I wanted to come to Susan, is that I love paper. Paper is really, that's the medium I work with on my paintings, and paper to me is the form. So the fascinating thing for me about paper is that I work on paper, but the blankness of the paper becomes essential part of the imagery for me. And so, jumping around here, but I did a lot of printmaking when I was young. When I first moved to New York, after I got my master's in painting, I moved to New York, and I actually spent 2 years at Pratt Graphic Center. I did lithography and I did etching. Again, I mostly did very large monoprints while I was there. So I also spent a very long time teaching part-time. I would always teach printmaking to my students just so I could have fun with it. They didn't know that, but I was always just a little bit ahead of them. So I've had a fascination in my entire career with printmaking.
Well oiled. And you print it, and then you split the prints. And he would say, what did you do with your prints last? I said, oh hell, I gave those damn things the way they were already good. He said, well, you see this new barn and this new 50 acres? I sold it. And I was rich. So we've done things, I think, we have now. Otis Redding went down to Lake Monona. And Lake Monona, when it freezes, is a celebratory place in Madison. Sometimes they do the Statue of the Liberty and you fill the upper part of the Statue of Liberty. The Statue of Liberty is growing underwater. Well, so we did a 100-yard print and just turned it into a cocktail. Lake Monona, and we made a print. It's just the most exciting way to do anything that you want to do. Walk on wires, walk across. Fly. What the hell? Just wake up.
So my final one thought was, I really enjoy the community of printmaking. I think that's why I chose to go into printmaking as a student, because I really love, you can learn the life of a person over the printing press, because you're there working and incredible things happen. And the last thing is I have an Andy Warhol mug from the Warhol Museum, and it says, in the inside of the glass, it says, all the cows are on the outside. It goes, I like things that I can do over and over and over. So repetition is practice to get it right. So thank you all for coming. There should be some music in a little bit and some refreshments.
Is Patrick coming?
They don't always go together.
Are they gonna pair?
Are you fused together?
What's that?
Are you fused together, the two of you?
We're all good. Whichever way. Yeah. I think he might have had like a. He might have had an event there. Where he was doing so.
The president of the Drew there now. The president. There's no one else there.
He's terrific.
All right.
I really should have gotten you. I thought I would get a jump started. A whole bunch of photographs because I have a lady coming to take a bunch of my work.
Oh yeah.
To a gallery in South Carolina, and